Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about the ongoing tensions between India and Canada and the role that the United States is playing in it. We also talk about Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik praising PM Modi ahead of the 2024 elections. But first, we talk about the 2023 Asian Games that are currently underway in Hangzhou, China. These games, which commenced on Saturday and feature 40 different sports, were originally planned for 2022 but were postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Last evening, towards the tail end of day 2, we had a conversation with Indian Express's Amit Kamath about how India has been faring so far. Amit is the co-host of the Express Sports podcast.
So India so far, after almost 2 days are over, but so far we've won 11 medals, 2 of them golds, one of them coming in cricket, one of them coming in shooting. But the other thing is, of those 11 medals, most of them, 10 of them have come either in shooting or rowing. That is also, just to explain it to our listeners, that is also because sports like rowing and shooting traditionally start early at the multidisciplinary games as compared to athletics. Like, a lot of athletes in track and field are still in India. They're still training, still getting acclimatized to the conditions in China, things like that. So they will be flying there. They're still not there. I mean, it's a very good showing for the first 2 days, considering I don't know how many people were expecting rowers to win so many medals. Obviously, for rowers to end their campaign with 5 medals is a great deal. And there were a couple of events where they actually pushed the Chinese. The Chinese, there is a running joke that the Chinese kind of treat the Asian Games like their own national games because they are so dominant. On the first day, there was a point when all of their first few medals were just golds. No silver, nothing blighting their medals tally, right? So for an Indian rowing pair to push the Chinese was a big deal in itself.
And Amit, India winning 5 medals in rowing, 2 silver and 3 bronze. I mean, this is not something we hear that often. Tell us, how important are Asian Games for rowing and more specifically for Indian rowers?
The thing is, why I'm so fascinated by rowing, because rowing is, one of those thankless jobs. These rowers, they all train in Pune's army node. They get their time to shine maybe once in every 4 years when the Asian Games come along. Like at the Commonwealth Games last year, rowing was not there. At the Olympics, obviously, it's slightly difficult to win a medal. So they don't get that much attention because everybody else is off chasing somebody more popular or something like that. So the Asian Games is really an event where the Indian rowers properly come to party, if you will. And they've shown it this time around. For them to win 5 gold medals and give India the start that they have into a 14-15 day multidisciplinary games is commendable by itself. And when they come back, they will again go back to their army training node in Pune, where they will again go at it without the rest of the spotlight that will probably follow all the other medalists around. And also don't forget that, like our colleague Mihir, he wrote a superb piece from Hangzhou about how a lot of these rowers come from, Rajasthan, where they'd not seen such a massive body of water before they came and then they became rowers. So, I mean, what a great story that is. So, that is why I'm a little fascinated by the rowers.
And Amit, when we talk about the 2 gold medals, the first was won by the men's 10-meter air rifle team and the second by the Indian women's cricket team. I mean, these are both sports India is really good at. Were these wins expected in a way?
Expected, yes, but then I think the Indians would also look at it and feel a little tinge of disappointment, especially because both the air rifle events are done, the 10-meter women's air rifle and the 10-meter men's air rifle. And those are the 2 sub-disciplines of shooting that India has been very, very strong at. I mean, don't forget that at the Beijing Olympics, India's first ever individual gold medal at an Olympics came in 10-meter air rifle. And Rudransh Balasaheb Patil, who was part of that 10-meter air rifle team which won the gold, he is a world champion. He is a reigning world champion who was competing in the individual event as well. But he could not win a medal. So given all of those things, I think India might feel a tinge of disappointment that they could not win more medals.
Right, and talking about disappointments, one major upset happened today when gold medal favourites and tennis champions Rohan Bopanna and Yuki Bhamri were knocked out. Talk about the match that did it for them and what do we assess went wrong there?
I mean, they started off well. They won the first set. The second set is where things started to go wrong horribly. Obviously, see, Rohan and Yuki are not traditionally somebody who pair together. So that was a thing. Indians are obviously, defending the gold medal because of the 16 gold medals that India won at Jakarta Asian Games. The men's doubles gold was one of them. So obviously, Rohan is our premier doubles player when it comes to tennis. So for him to crash out in the second round, the first round he got a bye, he and Yuki. So for them to crash out in the second round, they will feel a little disappointed. That too, because they crashed out in the tiebreak.
And we know, of course, that these games will last till the 8th of October. What are some of the events that people can look forward to?
Well, depending on when the listener is tuning into this podcast, there is a very strong possibility that a lot of our Indians have already competed by then because, the Asian Games on Tuesday, Indian action will start around 6:30 with the skeet shooters in action, with the 25-meter women's pistol shooters in action. The 10-meter mixed rifle team will start shooting. Bhavani Devi, path-breaking fencer, who was the only fencer from India ever to compete at an Olympics at Tokyo, she will be in action at 6:30 a.m. So, the action will come thick and fast very early on. And as we go through the Asian Games, we will have the weightlifters coming in at some point. We'll have the wrestlers coming in at some point. The badminton players will start their campaigns. Badminton is something that has brought us great success at the Olympics, but at the Asian Games, not so much. I mean, that is something that we need to look forward to and see how, it pans out. The chess players have been playing for a while now, so there's a very good chance that a couple of medals will come from chess. The athletics contingent, a lot of them are still training in India. So whenever they fly out, they will be somebody to watch out for. Especially there is the man they call the golden boy, Neeraj Chopra. He will be in the fray at some point. You will have your archers coming there. And I think kabaddi, hockey are events that we are still smarting from Jakarta 2018 because those were medals that we considered as short gold medals and we missed out on those. So the Indian men's hockey team, the Indian men's kabaddi team, they will be hungry to win those gold medals. Besides that, our wrestlers have not had the best of, build-ups because of, we all know what the controversy that has been kind of gutting the training of some of our top Indian wrestlers. So Bajrang Punia returns to the mat after almost, I think, nearly a year. So he'll be somebody to look out for when the wrestling events start right at the fag end.
And Amit, the Asian Games also feature sports that we don't usually get to see in other tournaments. For example, Sepak Takraw, which is kind of like kick volleyball. Could you talk about that aspect of the games a bit?
So, I mean, it's a fascinating sport. I mean, the only way I can describe Sepak Takraw is like volleyball with the use of hands prohibited and, you can only use your feet to smash and stuff like that. It is insane. The kind of things that they do. If any football fans are watching that, I'm pretty sure you will stop salivating over those scorpion kicks that footballers score and that people go crazy about that. I mean, that does not compare to Sepak Takraw because that is how Sepak Takraw is played. Most of the times they are returning the ball or they are smashing the ball across the net with their feet above their heads and them completely airborne. So that is one sport that you get to see, especially at the Asian Games. There are also events like Kurash and Uzbekistan sport. There is also something known as, Wushu is something that I've found very, very fascinating over the years because, if you're seeing Wushu, right, you are very likely going to be fascinated by it because Wushu is not one sport. Wushu is like 15 different sports just combined into one because there is a subcategory called Taolu, which is just routines, right? There is no combat. And there is Sanda, which is where it looks a bit like MMA. So in Taolu, you will see people, with complete bedazzled, bedecked costumes, just fighting in the air, fighting nobody in particular in the air. It's a whole thing where you are supposed to show how pure your routine is, right? So they do all of that. They punch in the air, they kick in the air, they do all of those somersaults, pirouettes. Sometimes they have these flashy swords which are flexible. Sometimes they will have other sorts of equipment with them. And then you look at something like a Sanda, which is literally a free fighting competition on an elevated stage where there are no, ropes around the ring. So in Sanda, you can basically kick, punch your opponent off the mat, then he has to climb back on the mat, and then they start again. So it is insane. If anybody watches that, I'm pretty sure you will either love Taolu or Sanda or the entire sport of Wushu. I know I have spoken way too much about Wushu, and maybe India may not win too many medals there, but just for entertainment, if I had to make a recommendation for the complete agnostic or the of sport, I think that's your sport.
And next we talk about the India-Canada tensions. The tensions between the two countries have persisted ever since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made explosive allegations last week about the Indian government agents being potentially linked with the killing of a pro-Khalistan separatist leader, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who had been a Canadian citizen. Since then, both sides have expelled diplomats, with India rejecting these claims and even suspending visa services in Canada. Now, over the weekend, the New York Times reported that after Nijjar's killing, the US intelligence agencies offered their Canadian counterparts with context that assisted Canada in concluding that India had been involved in it, adding that it was Canada that developed the most definitive intelligence leading to its accusation against India. Now, this report by the New York Times came just a day after we heard from the US ambassador to Canada, David Cohen, regarding these allegations. In an interview with Canada's CTV, Cohen said that it was shared intelligence among Five Eyes partners that helped lead Canada to the claims that PM Trudeau made.
Look, I will say that this was a matter of shared intelligence information. There was a lot of communication between Canada and the United States about this. And I think that's as far as I'm comfortable going. I think I've already gone further than you should have expected that I'd be willing to go by confirming that there was shared intelligence among Five Eyes partners that helped lead Canada to making the statements that the Prime Minister made.
Let me switch gears then.
Now, it's important for us to understand that Five Eyes is an intelligence sharing alliance between the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. When we spoke to Indian Express's diplomatic editor Shubhajit Roy, he told us that this alliance actually started during the Second World War.
So if you remember, there was this race to break the German codes, secret codes by the British code breakers. Alan Turing was one of the pioneers in that.
In fact, this story is also depicted in the 2014 movie The Imitation Game, in which Benedict Cumberbatch plays Alan Turing.
It's the greatest encryption device in history, and the Germans use it for all communications.
Everyone thinks Enigma is unbreakable.
Let me try, and we'll know for sure.
Mr. Turing, do you know how
So the partnership actually developed around that time in 1943, when the World War was on between Britain and USA. And they signed an agreement, BRUSA, BRUSA, if you choose to acronymize it. So Britain and USA had an agreement to share intelligence. After that, in 1949, Canada joined the grouping, the intelligence sharing grouping, because it's obviously the next door neighbor of the United States, as well as a sort of closest ally of the US at that point of time.
He says later in the 50s, Australia and New Zealand also joined this grouping.
That's when it became Five Eyes, basically five members, five pair of eyes, five sets of eyes. So that's how they christened the group, they named the group, and it has sort of always been under the radar. People actually at that point in time didn't even know about this mechanism. It became known only in the later in the 80s and thereabout. So that this is the mechanism under which all these five countries, they shared intelligence among themselves. They also have, they're all sort of alliance or a partnership which binds them together. So that's how this information, as New York Times has reported, was provided by US to Canada.
And Shubhajit, you have also reported that now the US has inserted itself as an interlocutor between Ottawa and New Delhi, and that there are back-channel talks happening between the two sides right now. So talk about how the US is involved in this at the moment.
So if you see in the last 6 days or so since the diplomatic firestorm actually broke out, between India and Canada, the top US officials have spoken out. At least five senior officials and diplomats from the different branches from different parts of the government or the embassies have spoken out. They include US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, their White House's National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications John Kirby, and the US Ambassador to India Eric Garcetti and US Ambassador to Canada David Cohen. They've all made public statements. And if you really pass through their statements, all of them are very measured, but with a very nuanced message for both India and Canada. In short, they're asking Delhi to cooperate, India to cooperate in the investigations, but also asking Canada to not jump the gun.
And this must be a tight rope walk for the US, right? Considering it has ties with both India and Canada.
That's correct. Canada is sort of a very, very the closest ally that they have. They're the next door neighbor. As we discussed, both are members of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing mechanism. They both are members of the G7 grouping. On the other hand, India is a very, very important strategic partner. And India's relevance, India's strategic weight is also because of the challenges both US and India are facing from a belligerent, aggressive China. So from that context, if you see, how the geopolitics is playing out, where both Russia and China are the two big strategic rivals of the United States and the West, from that context, they need India to be with them. So US is sort of in a difficult position to not make a difficult choice between the closest ally, the next door neighbor, and one of the most important strategic partners. So therefore, it is essentially slowly and publicly, it has emerged as the interlocutor between Ottawa and Delhi.
And Shubhajit, right now, External Affairs Minister S. Shankar is in New York, and he has been making statements about this issue. He said, for example, it is still a world of double standards, and countries occupying positions of influence are resisting the pressure to change. Could you talk about what stands out to you about his statements?
Well, obviously, he's indicating, his remarks are directed at Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who's been defending pro-Khalistan activities in Canada by citing freedom of speech. So he's sort of said that, Shashank said, in the name of the market, a lot of things are done. Like in the name of freedom, a lot of things are done. So essentially, he's talking about the double standards between, that's his view, that essentially the West has double standards when it approaches such issues.
And in the end, we talk about Odisha Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik. On Sunday, Patnaik, while giving an interview, praised PM Modi's handling of foreign policy and the measures to fight corruption. In his statement, he said that he would give him a rating of 8 out of 10 and said that he is trying his best to serve the people of the country. This praise by Patnaik is significant because it comes at a time when there appears to be a growing bonhomie between the BJD and BJP ahead of the 2024 elections, both for the Lok Sabha and the Odisha Assembly. In this segment, we speak to Indian Express's Sujit Bisoyi, who reports on Odisha politics for the paper. Sujit, could you begin by telling us in what context did Naveen Patnaik say this? Was this in response to something?
Well, Shashank, it was in response to a questions put by one known editor of the New Indian Express, because Naveen Patnaik made that statement at the Odisha Literary Festival. So he attended one interaction program, and during interaction, the editor asked him about, since it's known to everyone that Naveen Patnaik shares cordial relationship with the center and some top union ministers. So the anchor asked, how do you rate Prime Minister Modi? In response to that, he said on foreign policies and in terms of his efforts to root out graft, he'll rate him 8 out of 10.
And could you talk about what has been the historical relationship between the Biju Janata Dal and the BJP?
BJD was one of the allies of the NDA, or you said BJP, at the center for around more than 10 years and Odisha for around 9 years. From 2000 to 2009, they were in alliance. So after that, BJD is going single. But after 2014, things have changed after Prime Minister Modi assumed charge. So Naveen Patnaik, it's a known that not only the nationalist program, but on several occasions, Naveen Patnaik has admitted that he believes in constructive criticism, what he calls, for extending support to the NDA governments on various occasions inside and outside the parliament. Because you see, it started since 2014, because on major occasions when Modi government took some tough decisions like demonetization, you call it triple talaq or abrogation of 317 Kashmir. So on every occasion, Naveen Patnaik stood behind Modi and he supported him.
Right, and from what we understand, as far as the support towards the NDA government at the centre is concerned, the BJD has been crucial in the passage of many important bills, right?
Yes, absolutely, because BJD has almost 12 MPs in Lok Sabha, and their numbers are significant as far as Rajya Sabha is concerned, because they have 9 MPs. And since NDA don't have full majority in Rajya Sabha, BJD has always extended them. In the recent past, BJD's support to the NDA government or Modi government was crucial while passing this NCT bill involving Delhi.
And can you tell us how this relationship has played out at the state level? Have we seen this sort of bonhomie in Odisha as well?
See, after 2019, BJP replaced Congress as the principal opposition party in Odisha. So Odisha, they don't have any cordial relationship like Modi and Naveen has. On several occasions, we have mentioned in our stories as well, like state BJP leaders are keep on attacking on Naveen Patnaik governments over governance issues and other political issues. But while in their counter, the BJD leaders, they will specifically target the state BJP and they will not say a single word against Modi or say top BJP leadership.
And these comments, of course, are coming shortly before the upcoming Lok Sabha polls. Could you talk about what these comments basically signal at a time like this?
Shashank, this praise just months before the 2024 elections holds high significance politically, because there is a growing speculation of bonhomie between BJD and BJP. Last month, Amit Shah visited Odisha and he praised Naveen Patnaik like anything. This came days after BJD supported the NCT bill in Rajya Sabha. Amit Shah, in the run-up to 2019 election, had criticized Naveen Patnaik as the bronze transformer. But on August 5th, there was a meeting in the State Secretariat Convention Center and Shah praised Patnaik as the most popular CM. Then he went on praising for the state government support to center in combating Naxalism, and he also mentioned that Odisha shows way to other states in terms of disaster management. So in that perspective, BJD's support to Modi government on crucial bills and on presidential election and on other occasions like surgical strikes or aid strikes, and on the other hand, Amit Shah's praise to Naveen. So there is a growing speculations that the BJD-BJP tie may be revived or something like that, though there is nothing definite as yet.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.